97% of women over 50 miss the moment a man starts flirting with them. Not because they're unaware or out of touch, but because the signals have changed. He's not going to lean in with a wink and tell you you're beautiful. He's not going to say, "I like you," or ask if you want to grab a drink. Instead, he might say something soft, subtle, maybe even ordinary. But it's more than that. It's a quiet door swinging open. And if you don't walk through it, that door closes gently, just like it opened. That's how these chances slip by. You walk away thinking he seemed nice. He walks away thinking, "Guess she's not interested." You didn't do anything wrong. You just didn't catch the moment because you didn't realize what he was really saying underneath the question. This message is about the kinds of gentle, non-obvious questions men ask when they're interested but not quite ready to show their full hand. We're going to look at 8 kinds of questions like that. The ones that seem casual on the surface but carry quiet feelings underneath. And how to respond in a way that shows you're open and present without sounding desperate or assuming anything. After 50, most women don't need to try harder. They just need to see things more clearly. And once you start seeing it, you'll begin noticing signals that used to pass you by. You'll hear warmth where you once thought it was just small talk. You'll feel a tug of attraction in moments that used to seem unimportant. The kind of grown-up, mutual attraction that sneaks in softly, where before you assumed it was just politeness. Let's look at the first question. It sounds harmless, simple even, but it's one of the quietest ways a man might test the waters. When a man says, "How old are you really?" he's not fishing for numbers. He knows you're not 30, and he's not asking just to be playful. What he's really trying to feel out is something deeper. He wants to understand how you wear your age. Do you carry it with confidence? Do you shy away from it? Do you still feel alive within it? Or do your years feel like something you're trying to hide behind? He wants to know if you own it. How you respond tells him more than your birth year ever could. If you laugh nervously, dodge the question, or make a tired joke about getting older, he might smile on the outside, but inside something shifts. Because what he's really hoping to find isn't a number. It's a woman who's still present in her own life. The ones who truly shine at this stage of life aren't trying to rewind the clock. They're the ones who can say with a spark in their eye, "Old enough to know exactly what I want, young enough to still want it." Or, "Do you want my age or my energy?" I remember a woman named Renee, 62, elegant, warm, had this quiet magnetic pull. She told me about a man she met at a jazz event in the park. Polite, kind, good smile. After a bit of conversation, he asked her, "How old are you really?" She smiled, half laughed, and said, "Old enough to know not to answer that on a first meeting." He chuckled, but something shifted. She told me later, "I thought I was being witty, but now I think I missed something." And she had. She missed the moment. That's the deeper truth. These questions, these soft little tests, aren't just words. They're invitations. And when you meet them with discomfort or avoidance, even if he doesn't say anything, he feels it. Here's what's really happening. As we get older, we don't just carry our years, we carry our fears. The fear of no longer being seen, the fear of not being desired, the fear of not being chosen anymore. Men pick up on that energy, and when they ask questions like this, they're checking, are you still lit up inside? Do you still feel worthy of being seen, being wanted, being loved? So the next time someone asks, "How old are you really?" don't shrink away from it. Don't turn it into a joke. Let it be a moment. Because if he's asking, there's already interest. There's already a spark. And your answer either fans it or lets it fade. Here's another question that throws a lot of women off. Why aren't you married? Now, at first, it might sound like he's prying, but listen to his tone. If it's gentle, thoughtful, more curiosity than criticism, he's not interrogating your past. He's quietly wondering if he might have a place in your future. He's not asking for your whole life story. He just wants to feel out whether you're still open. This is where a lot of women go off track. Some dive into full explanations, past heartbreaks, old mistakes, what didn't work. Others get defensive and say things like, marriage? I've done enough of that. What they don't realize is that both reactions say the same thing. I'm not ready. I'm not open. I'm still carrying the past like a weight. What he's listening for isn't your history, it's your peace. Can you speak calmly about your life as someone who's made room for something new? That's all he wants to feel. Try something light, like, life just unfolded differently, but I'm open now. Or even, maybe I was just waiting for the right person. Who knows? Could be you. I knew a woman named Diane, mid-60s, soft-spoken but strong. She met a man in a cooking class. After a few sessions, plenty of shared laughter, he asked her gently, "So how come someone like you isn't married?" She froze, laughed nervously, changed the subject. He never came back to the class. She told me later, I didn't realize he was asking because he was thinking about us. That's the thing. These moments are quiet. They don't shout. They slip in during everyday conversations, and when a man asks something like that, he's already feeling something. He's just testing the waters, hoping you'll let him in a little before he risks more. If your answer carries warmth, a little vulnerability, he feels it. It tells him, yes, she's not just single, she's open. That's the difference. So the next time someone asks why you're not married, don't get defensive. Don't tell the whole story. Let it be a doorway. Here's another subtle one. Do you date younger men? Some women feel flattered. Others get suspicious, trying to figure out the angle. But here's what's really going on. He's trying to find out where he stands without putting himself fully out there. He's wondering, could someone like me be seen as a real option? He's not really asking about your past. He's asking if he has a chance. Many women miss this and shut it down. They say, I don't date younger guys, or joke, aren't you a little young for me? But both of those answers feel like a quiet no. What works better is something gentle and open. Something like, I don't date based on age. I care more about who someone is than how old they are. Or even, if there's a connection, age doesn't matter so much. That kind of answer leaves the door open without making any promises. And sometimes that's all he needs. I remember Naomi, 58, free-spirited artist. She met a man at her gallery opening. He was 10 years younger, thoughtful, soulful. They had great conversation. Then he asked, would you ever date a younger man? She smiled, paused, and said, depends on how he makes me feel. That one line? It changed everything. It gave him the green light to lean in. Because the truth is, at this stage of life, connection isn't about age, it's about resonance. And when a man asks if you date someone younger, he's not being bold, he's hoping for a maybe. He's hoping for a chance to matter, and how you answer tells him whether to keep trying or quietly step back. There's another question that seems simple but holds a lot underneath. What kind of man do you usually go for? It sounds like small talk. It's not. He's not trying to be compared to a checklist. He's trying to figure out if he could possibly be what you're open to. Some women make the mistake of answering with a list. Tall, funny, ambitious, likes dogs. But that just turns him into an outsider trying to measure up. What works better is leaving room for him. Try something like, I like men who are grounded and kind, or I care more about how someone makes me feel than if they check certain boxes. When you answer from that place, open, warm, it gives him space to imagine himself beside you. And that can shift everything. I once spoke to a woman named Ellie, 62, retired nurse. She met a man at a charity event. They connected easily. One afternoon, while unpacking boxes together, he asked, so what kind of man are you usually drawn to? She echoed. Without thinking too hard, she said, I guess I'm drawn to someone calm, someone who makes a space feel safe just by being in it. He didn't say anything right away, but later that afternoon, after everyone had gone, he stayed behind to help clean up. And when she thanked him, he smiled gently and said, I was hoping I was your type. That's the quiet beauty of these small moments. When you speak from presence instead of performance, you make room for real connection to take root. From a psychological view, that kind of question is about self-selection. He's listening carefully, reading between the lines, trying to decide whether he should step closer or quietly back away. And your answer either draws him in or lets him drift without shame. So next time a man asks what kind of guy you usually go for, don't reel off a fantasy. Describe the feeling you want to share. Because if he's asking, there's a good chance he's wondering if he could be that for you. Then there's that next kind of question, the one that sounds playful on the surface but carries something deeper. Question like, are you always this smooth? It usually comes with a half smile or a soft laugh. It feels like a compliment, but underneath something else is happening. When a man says, are you always this smooth? He's doing more than flirting. He's naming the energy between you and quietly asking if you can hold it with him. What he's really saying is, can you stay in this moment with me? Can you meet me here where there's spark without making it awkward or backing off? Sadly, this is where a lot of women step away, unintentionally. They joke it off, say something like, only on Thursdays, or must be the moon tonight. And just like that, the little flame he offered dies down. But there's a better way to meet that moment. Still light, still easy, but with grounding. Say something like, only when someone brings it out of me, or I save it for people who feel worth it. Because when you answer from presence, when your body and voice say, I'm here, and I'm not afraid of this moment, you let him know it's safe to keep dancing with you. Ellie told me a story once. She met a man at a local music night. They were talking about vinyl records, old songs, soft jazz. He leaned in just a little and said, are you always this charming or just tonight? She gave him a soft smile and replied, depends. Are you always this bold, or is tonight special? She told me something shifted in the air after that. The way he looked at her changed. He saw her differently. These moments, these questions, they're not really about charm. They're about connection. He's giving you a soft place to shift from friendly to flirty without pressure, without expectation. And your response tells him whether you're still emotionally open or if you've gone numb to this kind of magic. From a psychological view, this kind of compliment question is a gentle masculine way of deepening interest. He's not throwing himself at you, but he is knocking quietly at the door. And in that moment, your job isn't to impress, it's just to stay present. So if a man ever asks if you're always this smooth, don't brush it off. Let him feel that, yes, you're still a woman who can hold warmth without shrinking from it, especially now. Then there's the question that sounds innocent, almost teasing, but is often loaded with meaning. Why don't you have a boyfriend? On the surface, it's casual, but it carries weight, because when a man asks you that, he's not just trying to make conversation. He's looking for something. Hope, maybe. A little space in your heart he might be able to step into. When he asks, why don't you have a boyfriend? It's not because he's just curious. It's because he wants to know if you're still open, if you still believe in connection, or if you've quietly closed that door for good. And many women, without meaning to, respond in ways that sound like the door is already shut. They say things like, I like being alone, or men are too much trouble, or I'm too used to my space. And just like that, a part of him folds inward. Because he wasn't just asking if you were single, he was asking if your heart still has room, if you're emotionally available, if there's still warmth there. And the right answer, if it's true, is the one that leaves space for wonder. You might say, I guess I've been waiting for something that surprises me, or I've taken my time, but I'm still open to the unexpected. Villa, 71, once told me a story. She's always carried this quiet grace about her. At a local art show, a man struck up a conversation. After a while, he leaned in slightly and asked, why don't you have a boyfriend? She looked right at him and said, because I've been learning how to love myself better, and now I'm ready to love someone even deeper. She told me he didn't look away for the rest of the evening. That's the power of a grounded, sincere answer, one that holds space for possibility. From a psychological angle, men, especially older men, fear rejection deeply, often even more than women do. So instead of saying outright how they feel, they ask these quiet, careful questions. Questions that sound easy, but take courage to voice. And how you answer tells them whether it's safe to explore more, or if they need to protect their heart and retreat. So when he asks why you're single, don't shut him out. Let him lean in. Let him stay curious. Let him stay connected. Then there's the question that's soft, but brave. The kind that takes guts. Would you ever go out with someone like me? That's it. That's as close as you'll get to a confession from a man who wants to be bold without risking too much. When a man asks, would you ever date someone like me? It might sound playful, but make no mistake, he's not just joking. He's stepping out on a limb, and it's vulnerable. Because this time, he's not speaking about guys in general. He's speaking about himself, directly. And this moment, it's not a test, it's a truth. And the way you respond will shape how he carries that moment with him. Many women freeze here. They hesitate. They say, maybe, I don't know, or they quickly change the subject. And just like that, he pulls away, not because he wasn't real, but because now he feels alone in it. The right answer doesn't have to be poetic. It just has to be sincere, something that shows you saw him, really saw him. You could say, I think I'd be lucky if I could. Then pause, let it land. Let him feel the warmth in that honesty. I remember Charlotte, 66, retired from the Air Force, steady and strong. She used to walk with a man around the park. One evening, under a soft blue sky, he asked her gently, would you ever date someone like me? She didn't answer right away. She looked at him and simply said, I'd be silly not to. He didn't reply. He just took her hand, and they kept walking. That's what these moments ask for. Not charm, not cleverness, just truth. Real, soft truth. Psychologically, this is the final opening. Not to manipulate, but to connect. He's not just trying to flirt. He's trying to find out if he still matters. If he still stirs something real in a woman like you. You don't have to promise anything. You just have to be present. So if he ever asks if you'd go out with someone like him, know that it took courage for him to say it. And if you meet that courage with gentleness, with honesty, he won't forget. Not because you chased him, but because you saw him. And sometimes the signs don't come as words. Sometimes they show up in the spaces between. In the way he looks at you when you're not speaking. The way he lingers when the moment gets quiet. The way his eyes soften a little when you say something small, but real. Because men, especially older men, have learned to signal without speaking too loudly, to gesture without pressing too hard. And, if you're not paying attention, you might miss it. Have you ever noticed a man lean in slightly when you speak? Hold your gaze just a second longer than expected? Laugh gently at something you said, even when it wasn't meant to be funny? Those aren't coincidences. They're small offerings, gentle signs, and then there are the physical signals. A hand resting near yours, when there's plenty of space, standing a touch closer than needed, mirroring your movement without realizing it. These are subtle, yes, but they're not nothing. They're quiet invitations that say, I see you. Do you see me? And if you meet them with grace, a pause, a smile, a small warmth, you might be surprised how deeply things can shift. Because connection doesn't start with grand speeches. It begins in the soft, brave gestures, the quiet risks, the still moments where one soul says to another, I'm here, and someone like you sees it and stays. You pick up on the subtle cues, a glance that lingers a little longer, the way someone inches just a bit closer, the shift in their voice when they say your name. These are deeply human expressions of attraction. woven into us from the very beginning. But as we grow older, especially after heartache or long seasons of being on our own, we begin to second-guess those instincts. We question what we feel. We tell ourselves, he's just being kind. But what if he's not? What if his eyes are holding more than politeness? What if the way he listens isn't out of courtesy, but curiosity? Maybe even admiration? What if his quiet focus is his way of saying, you still light something up when you walk in the room? This isn't about reading minds or decoding riddles. It's about returning to a state of presence, letting yourself notice again what you used to feel so easily before life got heavy, fast, and full of noise. Attraction at this stage of life rarely announces itself loudly. It moves gently. It whispers. So here's your quiet invitation. The next time you're talking to a man, don't pressure yourself to say the right thing. Instead, look at him. Really see him. Watch how his eyes move when he looks at you. Notice if he leans in when you speak, or how his breath shifts when you're close. Ask yourself, not what should I say, but what is he already showing me? Because sometimes the most meaningful signals aren't words, they're pauses. They're in the way someone doesn't rush the silence, in how they linger instead of leaving, in how the quiet between you isn't awkward but easy, soft. And when that moment comes, because it will, when he leans in, maybe after a laugh or during a quiet pause, and says something like, you have this calming energy about you. Would someone like you ever say yes to someone like me? What he's going to carry with him isn't just what you said. He'll remember how you made him feel. He'll remember whether you were really there in that moment, if you paused long enough to take him in without rushing to respond. If you showed up without trying to impress, without performing, just standing as the woman you've become. Because here's the deeper truth. The people who leave the biggest imprint on us aren't the ones with perfect lines or polished charm. They're the ones who let real connection breathe. The ones who listen fully. The ones who stay present. The ones who can sit in the quiet with you and still make you feel understood. So if you remember nothing else from this, remember this. At this stage in your life, you don't need to chase. You don't need to shrink yourself into what you think someone is looking for. You've lived long enough to know who you are. What you need now is the courage to notice when someone else sees it too, and to let them. Let your presence speak. Let your words come slowly, from a place of calm. Let your energy say, I'm here, this is me, no mask. And if something real begins to grow from that moment, let it be, because both of you chose to show up without pretending. Because when a man senses that kind of honesty in you, when he feels your ease and self-trust, something in him softens too. He drops the act, he stops reaching for lines, and suddenly the space between you becomes something more than conversation. It becomes a shared ground. So take a breath and think back. Think about the last few times you spoke with a man. Moments you may have brushed off. Little exchanges that, in hindsight, maybe carried more weight than you realized. Were there signs you overlooked? Curious questions you dismissed too quickly? That's okay, it happens. But now that you're beginning to see with new eyes, the next time will feel different, and there will be a next time. When it comes again, try not to overthink it. Don't talk yourself out of what you're feeling. Don't get swept up in trying to control the outcome. Just stay grounded. Stay with him. You don't need to become someone else. You don't need to be more of anything. You already have what matters. You're a woman who listens without rushing, who sees with clarity, who carries both softness and strength. Let that be what speaks. Let that be what he remembers. Because in a world that's filled with noise and distraction, performance and posturing, someone who shows up with presence and truth, someone who sees him, really sees him, that's rare, that's powerful, that's unforgettable. And if this stirred something in you, if it made you pause for a moment, I hope you'll like this, maybe subscribe and tap that little bell icon. Your support helps us keep creating and sharing these deeper, more soulful conversations. There are so many women just like you, stepping boldly into this beautiful chapter of life. Let's keep showing up for one another with grace, with courage, with open hearts.